So the Timberwolves is always an interesting team to talk about. So for starters, they have Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns, who are two former or current number one overall draft picks. And they also have D'Angelo Russell, who was a second overall draft pick. And they also have a decent bench, but there's a problem here. The Timberwolves never seem to do anything. They're usually last in the standings, always, and it's like I don't even see the problem here because they have decent players around D'Angelo Russell, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, like Malik Beasley, Juan Hernan Gomez, Ricky Rubio, Josh Okogie. There's players here who can do stuff for them, and on the roster wise, they seem like they should be successful. But really comes down to they're in the West. That's really all it is. Because just thinking about it like this, the West has gotten so much better this year. The Suns, the Warriors are going to be healthy next year, and even though they don't have Clay anymore, they should definitely still be back in the playoffs as long as Steph stays healthy and the rest of the roster. The Blazers were an 8th seed, and they were injured all year. Zach Collins, Yusuf Nurkic, their best players have been out of the rotation. They even lost Rodney Hood in the playoffs, but all of them are going to be back next year. If Zion can stay healthy all year, the Pelicans might even be up there for in contention for a playoff spot. So we don't know with the West. Even Memphis has a case. But the Minnesota Timberwolves, they were 14th in the standings in the Western Conference last year. And the only team behind them was the Warriors, and they were injured all year. Their best player was Draymond Green, and he had a down year. And they were playing their bench players starters minutes for most of the season until Steph Curry came back. But then the season was suspended already, so it didn't even matter. The Timberwolves would have been the last team. I would basically say they were the worst team in the league last year. And it's really pathetic. Because if you just look at this roster on paper, it looks like an amazing team. I don't know if it has to do with the West. And if you use that reason, I wouldn't even blame you. Maybe if they were in the East, they wouldn't have these same problems. I really believe they might not. But the Timberwolves, they always add all these good pieces to their team, and they never go anywhere. It's really confusing because the last good year they had was when Jimmy Butler was on the team, and we all know how that turned out. So personally, I really don't know how I would actually fix this roster because even the Timberwolves started 5-0 last season, I believe, and they tweeted out, we're the best team in the league or something like that. I actually don't know. Don't quote me on that. But they just ended up being one of the worst, or possibly the worst, depending on how you look at it, team in the league. And I don't know what to do with this team or how to even a way to fix it because they have Karl Anthony Towns, they have D'Angelo Russell, they have Anthony Edwards, who's a promising player. Maybe not the best player in the draft, or he might be, depending on how you think about it. But they have all these pieces, and they can't do anything usually. And it's just really surprising because going into the beginning of last season, I was expecting a lot more from the Timberwolves, and I really was. I really believed that this was a promising group especially when they traded for D'Angelo Russell. And D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns are best friends, and I assumed, hey, that's going to make the team chemistry be a lot better than how it was before. And it was going to keep Karl happy. It was going to just make the team better, and it was supposed to. But the team just ended up being bad anyway. And even if you were to look at their offseason moves, I would say they improved, but not by much. For example, they drafted Anthony Edwards, and that was definitely an improvement. But there was some things about him saying that he would rather play football and he's not interested in basketball. So that was interesting at the very least. But they drafted Jaden McDaniels with the 28th pick. They re-signed Malik Beasley to a 4-year, $60 million deal, who has been in the news quite a bit for a bunch of different stuff. So that's all I'm going to say about him. And they even traded for a quality backup center in Ed Davis for Omri Spellman and Jacob Evans and a second-round pick. This roster has improved in the summer, but it's just so sad seeing the Timberwolves be last or close to last every single year because they have a very talented roster. That's not even a question. But there comes the point where we have to start seeing wins because if you want to keep your star player happy, you have to win. And I know for sure Karl Anthony Towns, he's not going to want to sit around and be last in the standings every single year because he's putting up his numbers, but it's not leading to winning. And it's mainly because of the roster around him. because even though Karl Anthony Towns can improve on some of the stuff he has to do, like defense mainly, he eventually wants to win. And I know he can help a team win. And eventually he's going to sit there and think, hey, why am I sitting inside Minnesota when there's other teams who want me? So he doesn't have to be there. And if Minnesota wants to keep him happy, they have to start surrounding him with more players. They have to start winning, because that's all he wants. He's talked about that multiple times, that all he wants is to win. And in Minnesota, that is not happening. So if I had to give you a way to fix this roster, I really don't know. I don't know, because they have a good roster on paper. On paper, at the very least, they have a good roster. But it's just not going anywhere. And maybe Anthony Edwards might improve this team a lot, where they are all of a sudden one of the best teams in the West. I highly doubt that. But I really don't know, because it's just surprising that, like I said before, on paper, this is a very good team, but there has to come to a point where there's winning involved. And in Minnesota, there's just no winning happening. And I really want to see this team be successful, but there just has to be something changed in Minnesota if they're actually going to do something. Because I actually want to see Karl Anthony Towns be successful, and I know he wants to be successful. So I don't know. I just hope soon the Timberwolves fix whatever problem they need to fix, because if they want to keep Karl Anthony Towns happy and he wants to stay, they need to win. Because if that doesn't happen, I don't see Karl Anthony Towns staying on that team for much longer. And if Karl Anthony Towns was to wake up one day and say, hey, I don't want to be in Minnesota anymore, that team is going to be pushed back so much farther now than how they are now. So if something's not changed, I don't see him there for longer. So they need to fix their problems quickly before something worse happens. But if you made it to this point, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.